I'm not aware, but later some people say so. But why would they be anxious? They're just meeting a human being like them. A beautiful place, a happy place. And working around the house and the farm, all those things, playing with friends, all those things. Or occasionally fetching water when the water in the taps would run dry. I'm the second born, so to begin with, we were not many. Yeah. By the time maybe I was of age of knowing myself, we were 4. And then another 4 came. Loving, but also my father is a strict disciplinarian. Yeah. But my mom just like the mom next door. Yeah. Strict, but when you loving and kind, and therefore she will sometime let you get away with 1 or 2 things. I think my dream started when I was towards 10. I went I accompanied my dad to court. And you know, in local terms, they used to call the magistrate a judge. So, and I remember telling my dad as we left the court that I want to be a judge. And his response was sort of like, that's okay, my daughter, but you'll have to work very hard in school. Yeah. Yeah. So my dreams were to finish school, start working like everybody else, and from that day I went to court, I found a career, or dreamt of a career. My mom, my dad, and my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, she lived with us, you know, as is usual in those settings. And she was a very strong influence on me. Lots of things to stand my ground, yeah, to fight for my space, all those things. Yeah, and my dad and mom too, I observed what they did, things around them, yeah. Yeah, the early influences are always the nurturers. And then others are the people around, the neighbors, people in the community, people you admire, yeah, that kind of thing. I was on contract. It was 2 short contracts of 3 years each, yeah. And my last gratuity, my second gratuity, is part of what I used to start my law firm. That is more about people's perspectives. There is the law, and there are influences that make people do what they do. Sentencing, how you handle accused people, it depends on where you're coming from. Like when I was dealing with petty offenders, especially traditional liquor brewers, I was entirely sympathetic. From a social justice lens, I saw them as victims of society, because it is the political establishment that must ensure that they're in the economic mainstream. These are people locked out of the economic mainstream, eking out a living. It is criminalized, the making of traditional liquor, a colonial relic, which up to this day I don't think we have removed from our books. In Uganda, they dealt with it differently. They assisted what would be the equivalent of Chang'aa brewers to brew it in hygienic and modern whatever, and they have their brewaragi, you see? So instead of criminalizing, because the colonial state criminalized making of traditional brew, while they continued to drink their traditional brews in bottles, you know, because theirs are bottled. It doesn't make it any different. So what you can do is to help people, especially when they are doing it in an industrial scale, to do it in hygienic circumstances And also you set standards so that it's fit for human consumption. And that is why liquor offenders, it's cyclic. You arrest them, put them in, they go back. They have nothing else to do, no other way of working out a living, they go back, you know. So I realized that justice is from the perspective of the person. And I used to, in sentencing, be lenient. And I wouldn't agree to put in jail mothers who say they have children. Generally, for me, just being caught brewing traditional liquor isn't such a big deal. You just give them 1 day's extramural penal employment. That means sweeping around the courts and any other government buildings which needs cleaning, and in the evening they can go home. The right to life?
To life.
Yeah, yeah. That an officer who your sweat is paying can shoot you to death, maim you, or actually right to life and dignity. Yeah, or treat you in a manner like the way they arrest people holding them. If it's men, their trousers. If it's women, the way they bundle them. It's right to life and right to dignity. Those are the most underrated human rights. Yeah. May I say this? We all suffer a certain risk to our lives even when you are sleeping. You can die peacefully in your sleep. When you got out of your house today, you came through traffic. Whether you are carried by a matatu, you are cycling, walking, or in your own car, you endure a certain risk on the road. You may not return. When you are in your house, there is a risk. You could slip and fall and die in your house. So life is a risk, but I take calculated risks. I also do not want to be shackled by fear. If you fear everything, then you can't be able to operate as a human being. I want to fear breaking the law. I want to fear violating the rights of others. And I want to be bold to protect my rights, my space, and to boldly express myself, because God meant us to be free and to express ourselves. So for God-given rights, I will not be held back by fear. I fear for my family, I fear for my friends, I fear for myself from things you have no control of. Illness, being not able to achieve your basic needs or obligations to your loved ones, you know. Also living in an environment that is entirely hostile to you. And that is the environment I'm living in now. An environment that is entirely hostile to citizens. Yeah. And we've lived through that before. It's not an evil, it's a fact of life. It's something we have to do. Politics is the art of living, really. As a citizen, you want to demand what is due to you. As a taxpayer, good services, accountability, those are your rights. It's the barest minimum. So, and that is politics. Whether you're a citizen complaining, that's politics. If I'm a representative or aspiring to be a representative or a leader, then duties accrue to me. The duty to be accountable, the duty to be transparent, the duty to put people first, all those things. So politics is the art of life, really. It's part of life. Yeah. And you can't avoid it. Even if I chose not to run for office, I must remain an engaged citizen. And every engaged citizen is actually involved in politics. It's only that we are at different levels of our involvement. I don't want to be a grumbler.
A what?
A grumbler.
Yes.
Just saying under the table, oh, this is very bad. I want to say it loudly. so that the person who should hear it ought to hear it. And so that others who are saying it quietly may find their voice to say it loudly. Because if we all did, things would change. Well, they clash, you clash, and you realize you sometimes see yourself in them. Like I do remember as I grew up, I used to clash a lot with my dad. And then we became very good friends when I matured up, because then you know how to engage him. And I suppose it's the same thing happening that, or has happened, that I will clash with my children, and then we, as they grew up and as they matured, we find ground. That doesn't mean you won't have occasional disagreements. That's what life is all about. I now see my grandchildren and I can see Allah. It's coming again. You can see. And it's okay. Maybe Kagame.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's that?
Look at what he has done for Rwanda. And that doesn't mean that he is a perfect president. But in terms of development, in terms of standing for the independence of Rwanda and Rwandans, there are qualities to admire. And I'm looking for leaders like that in Africa. And you will remember that a lot of people admired Abiy when he came in. But the problems now bedeviling his country, especially the Tigray issue, leaves a question mark, and I do sincerely hope that they'll be able to tackle. I admire the president of Namibia, how, you know, Namibia has carried on, and for Namibia now it's a tradition. It's not just the current president. They have achieved that tradition of being a country which respects the civil rights of its people. My greatest battle in life, I think, is just issues around, because I'm looking at it, and the upheavals that come are to do with issues of governance, to do with issues of rights. Yeah, even in my youth when we were battling with the Kanu regime, it was about right issues and governance. My problems in the Kibaki government, and that led to my resignation, same issues. On a personal note, it's just trying to strike the balance between what you're doing out and your family responsibilities. Because there's no manual, you never can be too sure that what you're doing is right or wrong, but you just try your best, the best you can. Life is a journey of learning and making and remaking. I don't think I'm even done with growing myself. So far so good, and we pray that we keep growing. Which parts of me? I think it's one of, what shall I say? Growing more patience with the situations that are difficult, yeah? So that you breathe in and out before stepping out. Yeah, I think we never can have enough patience. So you have to keep growing your patience, and also entry points in tackling different issues, because you can do the same thing differently and the outcomes will be very different. As you grow, there are things I still do and do differently than I did yesterday. Right. Yeah, so to say that you don't look back and see where you can adjust would be not to be truthful. Yeah, there are many things that one adjusts, and don't ask me to specify. Life is a journey of growth. You never cease learning, growing, till the day you exit. We didn't just come close, we won, and that's a fact. That's why the KK regime runs wild anytime we mention about SAVA. SAVA represents audit, provided for by Article 88 of the Constitution, that we should conduct an audit of the elections. Yes. If perchance, and I doubt very much, it is found that you won, we would have no option but to recognize them. Happily, because that is democracy. But should it be discovered, as I'm sure it would, that they didn't win, then they go home. It's simple as that. An audit provides a mirror for you to see what is wrong, to find out where the election board is leaking, so that we can plug in and then see how to renew and refresh, reboot our system. That is why the 2010 Constitution provided for audit. Even if there was no azimio demanding an audit is a must. And the IEBC cannot audit itself. You must call for external auditors. And those external auditors are Kenyans. Yeah, we must conduct that exercise. You can call professionals, but Kenyans are the external auditors of elections. You asked me how does it feel to come so close. I was offering a service. I'm not a job seeker, not at this stage in life. Even when I entered politics, I was not a job seeker. I was a private practitioner, legal practitioner. And I actually went on with my practice for 10 years when I was in the opposition, and then closed it down. So I wasn't a job seeker even then. I sought to serve. So if you offer service and it's not taken, you get on with life. Yeah, so I thrive irrespective. I think those who know me can answer that best. The fire in my belly doesn't go. Yeah. It is there and will be as strong as it should be, depending on what occasion. You don't need to protect your emotions. You'll be angry just like everybody else. You'll be happy depending on the occasion. You saw me partying in my birthday on September, 2 weeks after hot air. Because I'm angry and disappointed, but I'll not allow that anger or disappointment to consume my life, because then I'm giving you power over me. Yeah, I must be able to get on. It's all the same, but being a grandmother is like a second chance at something. Yeah, but grandmothers cannot really be disciplinarians. Okay, you can attempt, but I find that I can't be a disciplinarian the way I was with my children. You lavish more attention on the grandchildren. You see, it's a natural thing. Lots of things. Socializing with friends. I'm a person who enjoys socializing. Maybe that's one of the good things about politics, because you're with people and working with people all the time. I enjoy also, you know, just being with family. And I also have social hobbies like swimming and golfing, because at a certain age you need deliberate schedule for exercises to keep your body going, just like you need to keep attending to an old car. I'm just wondering when I'll meet the Iron Man, because why aren't men called Iron Men? It is because we want to pretend that strength belongs to men, not to women. So you meet a strong woman, you give her names. From Iron Woman to Abrasive to everything. A man who is the same or even more, oh, that's a strong leader. Upcoming leader. But you find all the negative adjectives for women. You see? Strength is the characteristic of a woman, even those who don't express themselves often. Just think of your mother. Think of the women you saw in your neighborhood. Think of the daily toil and struggles of women to raise their children, to steer their families, whether single-headed household or the usual two parents family, and you will discover that strength is the other name of a woman. It's not something reserved for Martha Karua or for politicians. We wield our strengths differently, some quietly. And when I remember my mother, and she is still alive, God give her more years, and also my dad. When I remember my mother, I see her quiet strength. She's not like me. We have similarities, but her character is different. I'm more like my father. And I remember I wind backwards, and I see the strength of my mom. And I see the strength of other women in the neighborhood. And of all the women I meet, of most women, almost all women, strength is their other name. Yeah, and the world would cease to function without the strength of the women around it. Have I ever really thought of myself insecure? I'm insecure that moment that I have not found the solution to a pressing problem. That makes me insecure. But immediately I figure out how I'm going to do it, I'm liberated from that insecurity. I began by telling you life is a risk, so everything is a risk. Whether it's a mortgage you're taking and you're not sure that you will have money to pay it, whether it's a car loan, whether it's what, all those are risks. Whether it's a decision to buy, it has its own risks. Whether it's business, life is a risk. And I don't think I've ever sat to say what is the risk I took, because I understand. Life is a risk, but never be shackled by fear, whether fear of failure, fear of others, even fear of death. So long as you are doing the right thing and you're within the law, do it. Injustice. And I just remember yesterday how emotional I was when I was told that my upcountry power bill was 85,000. You know, a bill that never reaches 3,000 because it's lighting only. We are not there. We have one homestead, my mother's side, my parents' side, and our side. It's one house joined by a corridor. So their bill is normally even higher than on our side because our side is hardly, it's just security lights and all that. So you are told it's 85. I was so upset because you know they want to steal from you. When I called a local Kenya power person and he told me that we do the reading and sent to him, he wasn't on the meter reading side, but he opted to help. When they went to the reader, to those who key in, they are now saying that they keyed in the wrong number. The same thing had happened to my house here in Nairobi. They'd given me, my bill had shot from an average of between 12 and highest being 20,000 in a month to 79. I was so mad, I just decided to go solar. So now I'm on solar here. And I'm wishing for the day I will do solar up there. So those repeated injustices, and you know if it's happening to you, it's happening to many others who might not even have the ability to follow the way you are following. Plus, how many people will be able to do solar? Because solar, they hiked the taxes on solar. It's no longer zero rated. The worst pain is injustice by a government that is funded or a regime funded by your taxes. Maybe a good read would make me happy. I like books that make you laugh, where you read as you laugh. until children around you will be asking you. One time when my daughter was young, she asked me, what did it say? Because she's seeing me laughing uncontrollably. And she wants to know what the book has said. I was reading just a very naughty little book, Tom Sharp. And it's, have you ever read Tom Sharp? Hilarious, hilarious, you know? It's just, it's not educative, it's like comedy, you know? It's like the stand-up comedies people have, but now it's a book. So you laugh. And I used to laugh also when he was doing that Daily Show, Trevor Noah, a very gifted and sharp person. So there are some things like that you just flip around. I also love listening to music. Sasa nyinyi mnakuja timu kubwa, mnayataka kuniuliza maswali watu wengi.